Hello, and welcome to the BigTime Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches from around the nation that are making the big time where they are at. Before we get to the episode, we'd like to thank our sponsors that make this podcast possible. TeamBuildr is a strength and conditioning software that allows coaches to build training programs, create wellness questionnaires, access and track athlete data, and more. Athletes can log data using phones, tablets, or laptops and can watch exercise videos so they know exactly what to do. Coaches can use the tools within the platform to monitor athlete recovery and readiness. Be sure to sign up now with code BigTime and you will gain access to a 30-day free trial. This episode is also brought to you by Powerlift. Taking your athletic facility from concept to completion can be a challenge. It is Powerlift's goal to make the process as seamless as possible from start to finish. Their weight equipment is made from the toughest materials that can withstand excessive use from coaches and athletes for years to come. It's sought after for its unique design, customizable appearance, affordability, and superior warranty that training facilities deserve. Powerlift helps design weight rooms with the athlete in mind, and they pride themselves on their ability to outfit athletic facilities based on a team's unique goals. That's why high schools, universities, professional sports teams, and athletic performance facilities around the world have chosen Powerlift to help maximize their strength training goals. Call Powerlift today to be contacted with a rep in your area and give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see for yourself why our clients are Powerlift proud. Finally, this episode is also brought to you by Vitruve. Vitruve is a velocity-based training system designed for colleges and high schools around the world. It is accurate, reliable, and affordable. The software is quick and easy to set up and use with a whole room of athletes simultaneously. Coaches have chosen Vitruve because it simplifies VBT and allows them to seamlessly integrate it on a daily basis. Check out Vitruve now for your school's free demo unit. Now, let's get to this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the BigTime Strength Podcast. Today, we are going to be going through what it looks like to have year-round strength and speed training in your school day. What this looks like is being able to gain an edge and help build successful habits for a lifetime. Our priority number one in Mustang Strength and Speed and our lifetime wellness class is to build the habits that kids need to have successful lifetime wellness. Meaning, what does it look like for somebody to chase lifetime wellness? What does it look like to be able to implement it, have a vision where they can set goals, monitor progress along the way, and then reflect on those goals? And every year, as we get ready for a new school year or heading into the summer or a new semester or coming to the end of the semester, we just take these time, me and Coach Whitman, the assistant strength and speed coach at Mount Vernon, we just take time to assess where we're at and where we want to go. And over and over and over, the key piece that we put at the very, very top of, a pyramid or at the top of the marker board or whatever is this lifetime wellness piece. And tied with that is, what does it look like to be consistent? If we can find consistency through their 4 years in high school, or hopefully 2 years down into the middle school, so a total of 4 to 6 years over the course of their career, if we can find consistency there, it will help build the pattern that these kids need to be successful for the rest of their life. And so many coaches around the nation, they see the sport performance aspects as being beneficial. And we're going to speak to that today. I totally believe that the sport performance benefits are awesome, right? But it is secondary to the lifetime wellness goal that we have at the top. Along the way, we still want to develop great people, build character, people that know how to do things well and at a championship level. And really, every coach, when they get done with the sports season, they kind of get spurred on to be like, okay, what are we going to do in this off season to become the best that we can be? In Mount Vernon's circumstance, we are at a small school. We probably have about 400 to 450 kids within our high school. And so not very large. And our high school has so many multi-sport athletes. So when one coach gets done with the season and they say to themselves, man, what do we need to do in this off season to make sure that we make the best jump that we can to be ready for next year? Oftentimes they just are thinking about their own sport. And at Mount Vernon, what we think about as best we can is all Stangs, all sports, all in. So what we're hoping for is, let's say it's the fall season and you're a volleyball coach or you're a cross country coach or a football coach, at least those are the fall sports in Iowa. Our thought process is, what can we get these kids out for in the next season? So can they wrestle or can they play basketball? And then into the spring season where they can do a lot more things, where they can play tennis or golf or track or soccer. We just want our kids to be active. We want them to be competing. We want them to be the best versions of themselves. And I think a lot of times that spurs on more kids to be more involved. Like if there's a kid that their number one sport is basketball, and they want to have the best basketball career they can possibly have, but there's not a ton of people that are just like super passionate and their number one is basketball. Well, there's going to have to be some give and take. Like that basketball player that really wants basketball to be their number one in a small school, they're probably going to have to do other things. And then they're going to have to ask their friends to like, hey, let's come out for basketball too, or whatever the sport is. So we really want this culture of like, get involved, be a part of a team, be a part of the Mustang culture. And we keep on pushing that hard. And one of the things that I love about our school is that is a priority. The multi-sport athlete is front and center. And I'm talking about athletes here, and we're going to continue to dive into athletes. But the way that we run our strength and speed program and our lifetime wellness program is not just athletes. It's all students, right? All students are coming through these two classes, and we just want to make sure that the product that we're giving them is good, that it's quality, and that there are some outcomes that we're really searching for. So I'm going to go through kind of a why that I wrote up of what it looks like to have year-round strength and speed training, why that is important. It's going to be with the lens of a sport coach. It's going to be with the lens of athletic performance. It's going to be at the lens of strength and speed training. So it's not to discount or discredit lifetime wellness aspects like our other class that we offer, but more so like, why is this so important to have in your school day? So every year across the nation, coaches close out their seasons by turning in equipment, completing postseason meetings, and celebrating accomplishments at team banquets. Not long after, attention gets turned to the next year and how a coach's team can improve to give that team the best chance for success. Coaches know that no game is won on scheme alone, and that over the next 8 months, their athletes will need to be developed mentally and physically to gain an edge on the competition. Well-organized and implemented strength and speed programs will be needed for coaches to get their team ready to go for the new year. There has never been a time where strength and speed has been needed more than now. But where should coaches begin? Like if you're around the nation, wherever you're at, and you're listening to this, and you're like, where do I begin? Where do we get started with this stuff? And what does it look like to get a whole school moving in the right direction? And what do coaches need to do to give their athletes the best opportunity to be successful? So where to begin? It's really, really simple. But at the same time, it's really, really hard. The number one thing is a supportive administration is the key. At Mount Vernon, we have been blessed to have supportive administrators that see the benefits of strength and speed training year round. So that's all the way from our superintendent to our principal to our assistant principal / athletic director. And then all of our sport coaches kind of fall in line because they see the structure, they see the benefit, and they see some of the things that we're going to talk about as we move through this. This allows us to train kids before school, after school, and most importantly, during school. This gives our kids the opportunities that they need to be successful while also respecting everyone's time, like including my own, right? So if I go back to when I was at Northwest Missouri State, getting up at 4 or 4:30 every morning was sustainable in that moment. But now that we have our third kid on the way, it's like, man, that's a different lifestyle than what I would be able to do. It's not conducive to a family and what it looks like to be the best that I can be, to be a husband and a father. So then you start to look at, like, what does this look like even at the high school level? Like, can we eliminate as much as possible the early morning sessions for our kids? How much can we funnel our kids into the actual school day? And what does it look like even on the backside of the day where we have like after school training sessions that are the norm for so many places across the nation? Like, what would it look like for our kids to get involved in more sports? And only if they're not going to do a sport, that they would come to the weight room or to the gym to do their strength and speed sessions. And really, like, I want that to be the last thing. I really want them to be active. I want them to be involved within the other sports. So what this is where getting coaches on board comes in, like after you have administrators on board. And when sport coaches don't have to sacrifice time to implement strength and speed training, then they are much more receptive. In addition, when communication is prioritized with sport coaches from the strength and speed staff, then trust and support increases. So like when I go and develop relationships, and when Coach Whitman goes and develops relationships with our sport coaches, it only makes us better. Top to bottom, it makes us better. Now all the sport coaches have to do is encourage their athletes to do their best at strength and speed training. Once sport coaches see the benefits of their athletes getting better, they'll be as hooked on the program as the student athletes are. This gives athletes a really good chance to be successful. One of the best things that a sport coach at any school could do would be to pump up the strength and speed program and the coaches that are running it. So, for example, if one of our coaches at Mount Vernon would say, you know what, Preston does an amazing job. Ryan Whitman does an amazing job. These two, they're going to make you better. They are so good at what they're doing, right? And it does two things. First of all, it helps the strength and speed program, no doubt, right? Because they're speaking positively to their student athletes about, man, this program is legit, right? But then in turn, because the student athlete hears that from their sport coach and they understand the value that's there, then they turn around, have good training sessions, and then guess what? They're better at their sport. So it's not like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's more like it's like a win-win, right? So the sport coach pumps up the strength and speed program. The strength and speed program helps pump up the kids, right? In a beneficial way, strength, speed, power type of way. And then we have better athletes that are being turned back over to the sport coaches. So like really when we look at it, if we can get the strength and speed staff on the same page as the sports staff, which oftentimes they're similar, right? Like I coach sports, Coach Whitman coaches sports. It's one of those things where we can just get everybody moving in the same direction. It is such a big deal. And I cannot understate how valuable it is to have a principal that sees the value in what we're doing and to have an athletic director that sees the value in what we're doing and then aligns the arrows moving in the same direction. It's so important for us. So what it looks like when we get coaches on board, administrators on board, and student athletes start to see the benefits coming along too, obviously there's this shift. There's a cultural shift that's just what we do. Like when we are a Mustang, when we're a Mount Vernon Mustang, that's just what we do. And that's really what we're trying to aim for, is to make that the norm. Okay. And then we can continue to raise the bar as we continue to improve. But really, once we make that the norm, then it becomes a culture that way, then we know we're getting 4 to possibly 6 years of quality training and allowing our kids to be successful on the field, the court, the mat, the track, whatever they're a part of. So implementing strength and speed training during the school day kills a few really large birds with one stone. Okay, here's my list. Students have to complete 1 semester of PE in Iowa anyway. Now they can fulfill that requirement in a way that makes them better for their sports, and they learn a valuable life skill. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that can carry over for the rest of their life. Coaches do not have to worry about scheduling strength and speed sessions into their practice because it's already taken care of, because their kids are taking it within the school day. This allows students more time at home. This also allows for more time for the students' bodies to recover. Like, they don't have to wake up early or stay late after a practice. And high schools have the opportunity to hire strength coaches that can safely and effectively oversee all strength and speed training for the district year-round. What a huge benefit to tie your physical education program to the strength and speed program. Every student's training program is tailored to being in season or out of season. If the sport coach isn't at the training with them, they understand that the strength and speed staff is caring for their athletes by providing them with workouts that meet them where they are and give them exactly what they need in that moment. If you reach out, I can help you talk through a little bit more of like how the ins and outs of what we do. And I'll go into some of our in-season training protocols the next podcast. But really what it comes down to is coaches can trust that their kids are getting what they need when they need it. And that really has just like been built into a system for us. Students work out in a really diverse environment, which I see this as a benefit. So we're co-ed, we're athlete and non-athlete, and we have different grade levels working out together. That helps build school pride. There's also a class to look forward to that just feels different than like regular classroom classes. That's an obvious benefit, right? Like for our kids, one of the number one things that they say that they enjoy about strength and speed class is the break from everything else. Like it is a mental break, including I don't let them bring their phones, right? Some of our classes, it's a no phone zone. Some of them can have their phones on certain days, depending on what the teacher has planned, that type of stuff. For us, it's a no phone zone. So it is unreal. It is unreal how nice it is just to get away from the phone for a little bit. And I had just a quick story. Last August, we were having a sport-specific training because in August is kind of a weird time for us. So we'll train volleyball, cross country, football, and out of season at separate times just because we're post-camp, but we're before school getting started. So we run it that way. And we had one of our athletes forget their phone at a strength and speed session. So I was bringing it to meetings. They were going to meetings afterwards. And I had it for probably less than 20 minutes. And in the 20 minutes, I had 40 notifications on this phone that were buzzing just nonstop. It was unreal the amount of notifications that were going on this phone. So if I had 20 minutes and there was 40 notifications, they're getting 2 notifications a minute just rolling in, right? And I just can't imagine always being that connected. But really what we're doing when we say in strength and speed class, no devices are coming in, this allows our kids to have a break. And I do allow Apple Watches. I do allow smart watches. So I'm sure they're still getting notifications on their watches. But for the most part, when we have that, it's just that mental break. And we really push into that, or we really reinforce that. It's a class that consistency is built in. If there's school, then we're training, right? That's another benefit for us. So I know there's a lot of irregularities in school calendars. I get it. But if we would train every time that we're at school, we're going to end up getting to where we need to go. And students that want to go above and beyond to get stronger or faster have extra opportunities before or after school to get extra lifts in, especially when there's other opportunities in town too. And some strength coaches see this as like a total negative, that there might be a private facility or a 24-hour fitness or a community center or a YMCA or something like that in town where kids are going to get extra. What I have found is over time, those kids that go and get extra, they are hooked, first of all, and that's what we want to build. Number one, we want lifetime wellness. If they're building the habit right now and they're hooked, like that's a job well done. Like that is what we want, first of all. And then second of all, is those kids' work capacity is so much higher than the other kids. So sometimes maybe they battle fatigue or burnout or overtraining or whatever you want to call it sometimes, but eventually their body adapts to the stimulus that's placed on it. And they just keep on going, right? And I'm just saying that I get the hesitation that a lot of coaches have with that, but I also understand that high school athletes are super resilient and they're so young and their moldability and their plasticity and their bounce back ability is so good. So it's like, yes, we want kids to be able to rest. I'm a wholehearted believer in that. Like, don't worry, I am. But at the same time, I think sometimes our kids need more stimulus than we're actually giving them. And that's not just, I'm always going to be a small dose type person, high intensity, and that's what we're going to apply in school. But I am never against kids that want to go to the gym and get an extra lift in. I'm not against it. And I think at one point I was. At one point I had a large ego in this area, and I would say, like we're doing really good work. Why do you need to go get extra? And really, I took a look at it and I'm like, man, that's exactly what we want. We want these kids to want more. That's what we want. That means their fire is lit and they're chasing. And we want kids that have a fire that's lit. And then the last bullet point I have is students that want to go and get that extra, kind of a sub point underneath it. So their fire is lit, the work capacity is there, But then they end up buying in even more to what we're doing. And they can be like the liaison or the messengers or the spokespeople for our kids. And they can pump up what we're doing because they know a little bit more than maybe the general student. So it's an awesome opportunity for our kids to take advantage of some of those things too. And I try to help, and like cheer on at this point to be able to do that. And let me continue here. For the last few years at Mount Vernon, we've had a lot of state level success. Strength and speed is only a small part of that success. Like I understand that. Like we have awesome kids, awesome families, great work ethic. It's only a small part of it. But there is no doubt that it's a valuable piece. Like it is a piece of the equation, even though it's only a small part. And I'm thankful for our administrators, our coaches, our parents, and our student athletes that contribute to that positive culture that surrounds the strength and speed program and the work that's being done. Some coaches that are reading or listening to this already know all this information and are like, you're implementing it at a high level, but you may be seeking affirmation or you just want some extra help on a particular problem. Like I totally get that. I understand. And so many times I need affirmation. While other coaches may not even know where to start, sometimes that happens. Our vision is to help school districts grow. So like BigTime Strength podcast, the whole thought process behind this is we want to be able to, for coaches across the nation to make a big time experience for their kids in their schools. So if you have either situation, if you are a coach that feels like they're doing a really good job and you just need some affirmation and maybe some help with some particular problems, reach out if you want to talk. If you are a coach that needs a lot of help just because you don't know where to start, I would love to be able to help you. And every school deserves a well-run strength and speed program for their students to succeed and excel. We are like Big Time Strength in general, or strength and speed coaches around the nation, or the NHS SCA, or other professional organizations. The whole point is for everybody to move forward and keep on getting better so that we can create better environments and better cultures and better systems for our kids. So in conclusion, coaches want to gain an edge for next year. By and large, people want to gain an edge. Don't forget about the lifetime wellness aspects. Strength and speed programs are needed across the nation. Good ones that are led by somebody that's passionate about what they're doing and helping kids. Supportive administration is a game changer. Getting all sport coaches on board is a must. Implementing strength and speed into the school day is best for all students. And what's next for you? You'll have to figure out what are your sticking points? What are the things that you need to work through? And then reach out to other coaches. One of the best things about this podcast, selfishly, is that I get to ask a lot of questions to a lot of coaches. Go out and start a podcast or start a blog or reach out to coaches and see if you can do Zoom calls or meetups or whatever that looks like, or site visits. Holy cow, just there's so much information that can be shared. As long as you're willing to go out and look for it. So I hope this kind of gives you a good overview of our thought process around year-round strength and speed training and why it's so important for the high school athletes. And I am fully aware that this model might not work at every school. This model that we use might not work in every state. I get that, but I'm sure there are pieces of it that you can take and implement at your school, or at least get your thoughts rolling in that direction, and then reach out to other coaches and learn more. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.